Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
How true these words of Winston Churchill are. Listen carefully. I contend that for a nation to try to tax itself into prosperity is like a man standing in a bucket and trying to lift himself up by the handle. Amen. Amen. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America on a Tuesday, March the 21st. Good morning. We need a caller with the Pledge of Allegiance. Come on, come on, come on. Oh, good morning, and welcome to Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and a big spring tire sale going on right now. And along with some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call them, get on the route service, 734-6969. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have you ever done the pledge before?
I think one time a couple of years ago.
You know, you do a very, very nice job. And I'm going to ask another question. Are you from this area originally?
No. I was born in Canada. I became a citizen about a year and a half ago.
That's what I was going to say. You are from the North Country. I noticed a very nice brogue from up north, and I just hope you call and give us the pledge again. That was very well done.
I will, and thank you for the invite.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. God bless you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, too. Bye-bye.
Oh, my goodness, it's time. Nice lady. Time for the weather forecast. And right now, I'm not going to say who it is because I'm always proven wrong. Right now, here is the weather.
That flood watch is still in effect through Thursday. Here is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch. We are looking at partly cloudy skies for today. A little bit on the breezy side, not too bad. High of 68 is what we're looking at tonight. More clouds are going to be rolling in, and we have about a 60% chance of rain showers and thunderstorms in the early evening hours. Low right near 40 tomorrow. Those rain showers could continue, about a 30% chance. Mostly cloudy skies for Wednesday. High of 57, overnight low of 37, and for Thursday, looks like mostly cloudy skies, slightly breezy, and a high of 56. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
She does a great job. Thank you, Gina. And, of course, our weather to kick things off this morning. Don't forget, big sale day is Thursday at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Merv May, Cade Rogge, and Lance Udy, the sale that works for you. And you be right here on this radio program Thursday morning early. We'll give you the livestock run. And if you have cattle to consign or need sale information, call them at 678-9411. Burley Livestock Sale Yard at 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Yep, on Thursdays, the sale that works for you. Want to also remind you, too, about some dear friends of mine, and I didn't go in the other day, Deanne did, and I have got to stop back over next week and get my clothes at Daryl's Cleaners. My goodness, they do a wonderful job. And, you know, I have mentioned to you many, many times about getting a gift card and giving it to someone you really care about. Maybe somebody that needs, by the looks of their rumply crumplies, maybe they'd better stop into Daryl's Cleaners. So check out those gift cards. And they'd love to help you. Kevin and Cindy, the whole crew at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Really good folks. Kind of a rundown what we're going to do today, and needless to say, we have a full plate. At 9:06 this morning, we're going to have Frosty Woldridge on the air. 9:30 from the Heartland Institute, James Taylor. Wow, he really tells it like it is regarding global warming, supposedly, and climate change, supposedly. And then at 10:06, Dr. History is going to be calling in. And then at 10:32, now this is not a done deal yet, and I explained this to Wheels earlier this morning. I think we're going to have a very, very sharp man with money, and that is Steve Beeman. Steve, back in the Midwest, has been on our program many, many times, and I think he's going to talk about what the Trump administration and the current sources of money, the Fed interest hikes, everything, what's going on. And we're going to talk to him at 10:30 this morning. Don't forget our friends at Denny's Restaurant. Holy moly. I'm telling you what, that is good food. I didn't get a chance to talk to Thomas the other day at the lunch bunch down there at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. He was going around shaking hands with everybody, and I missed it. I did. I did not get a chance to say hello, so I'll say howdy to Thomas this morning at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and, of course, they've got the delicious, sizzling skillet meals, or all those different kinds of buttermilk pancake breakfasts. You're going to love it. All the food, the people are great at Denny's Restaurant. 611 Overland in Burley and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Denny's Restaurant is America's Diner. And by the way, I also want to say thank you very much again to people that have really supported me for all the years on the radio. I mean, we started this talk show about 16, 17 years ago, and these next folks were the first to sign on. And I absolutely say God bless them. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. All your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. All. Key word right there. They can help you with everything. And they're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. Really nice, efficient people. I love going over there and having a remote broadcast and everything. They are nice. Ramsey Heating and Electric. They can help you at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Holy cow, did you see the great big Trump, I'm going to call it a rally because it was kind of a rally, and a thank you to the millions of Trump supporters as he has gone around the country thanking people. Well, this rally last night in South Carolina, I was just absolutely taken aback. It was almost like he was a candidate running again, not the sitting president. I mean, the screaming and the yelling and the waving of placards and just general chaotic noise in support of the president, and the lines outside that Coliseum, I think they said, went on for over a half a mile, people trying to get in. They didn't have enough seats. Many people were turned away. And I think at last count, in round figures, they were over 19,000 people in there last night. And I got to tell you that there was one lady that was interviewed, and I wonder if anybody else out there in the audience picked up on this. I want you to call me if you did. One lady was interviewed, and she was asked, why were you here? Why do you support President Trump? And I think she summed up our immigration problems in this country in just a matter of a few words. She said, and I'm paraphrasing, it's not about whether they are legal or illegal. It's about when they come here to this country, if they're going to assimilate or be part of an invasion? That's kind of chilling. That's kind of chilling. And quite frankly, I think she's hit the old proverbial nail right through the wood. Are they going to assimilate, or are they part of an invasion? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Hawks, this is the Chief.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, how you doing?
I am great. Chief, what's cooking?
Well, like you're saying, these people, I just don't understand it. I have family in California, and we communicated over the years on Facebook, and they're constantly just anti-Trump, waiting for the Trump to get impeached, and all for these immigrants, and I mean, just so far to the one side of everything that's going on. And there for a long time, I'd get on there with them and toss it around, and then they start defriending me, and I mean, these are my family. And
well, let me ask you this, Chief. Let me ask you something quick. How do they make statements like radical against Trump when really, if they'd sit back and listen and look, in the first 60 days of the Trump administration, there have been many, many positive things that have taken place economically and also for our security, etc. So that can't be a negative to them. And then also when they say they're sitting around waiting for him to be impeached, I'm asking you, how do they think that's going to happen? What has he done that's going to be an impeachable offense?
I don't understand it either. They're just so anti-Trump and everything that positive message that he's bringing, and I've even had him accuse me of saying, "Well, you didn't support Obama, so how does it feel?" But I guess these are the same people that are electing Pelosi and Maxine Waters.
Yeah.
And, these people out in California, I don't get it.
Well, let me ask you, Chief.
There's no reasoning with them. It's almost impossible to try to go head to head with them on facts and figures and things that are going on. And like I say, some of my families stopped talking to me and stuff over it. So right now, I just don't even go into any politics on the social media at all, because these people they're crazy out there.
Well, let me ask you, Chief, let me interrupt you for a minute and ask you a question, and then I got to do a commercial break. I'm covered pretty heavy in the first hour. Let me ask you this. These family members, what do they want? What did they get taken away from them? What do they expect? And do they want everything as a government commitment to provide for them, or do they have their own personal responsibility? Answer that.
I don't know. I think the gay and lesbian thing, and maybe the abortion thing, and all this far left views about what's right for the country and stuff. And there's some people that I know up in Washington State are the same way. The guys that I went to high school with. Yeah. I was shocked that they were people grew up in Idaho, conservative values, and sitting there on their soapbox for former President Obama. And I guess what can you say about somebody that would elect and stand beside Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, my Lord, the lady is not even competent, and I just thought I'd throw that in there. There's those people out there that are pushing all this anti-stuff, and I wish they'd stop, because it's just not doing much good for it.
That I totally agree with you, and it's always good to hear from you, Chief. I got to get a commercial break in, but God bless you, and thanks for your call, and I mean that. Thank you. Thank you.
There, bud.
All right. Take care, Chief. You know, and he's right about worrying about family situations. I know that the vein of liberalism and the gimme, I want crowd, it's not just through certain portions of California going up along the coast into Washington. It's back in the Midwest. It's here. It's all over the country by people that absolutely think, oh, well, I'm not going to get that given to me anymore. Why? They're not going to provide that for me anymore. Ooh, I've got to go out and I've got to protest and I've got to make sure that I keep getting the gimmes. Well, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. Berry Equipment and Rental, 3 locations to serve you. Jerome on South Lincoln, Addison Avenue West, of course, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They have all the equipment to get the job done right. All you have to do is just pick up the phone or stop in and see them, and they're easy to find, and they've got the Walker mowers at 0% interest for 48 months. You can mow like the pros. Boy, those are good-looking mowers. And they've got all the Bobcat excavators, equipment rentals, retail equipment sales. Nice people, knowledgeable people at Berry Equipment and Rental, Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. Well, I know another group that absolutely I am very, very high on because I think they're the best. Now, that's not brag. That's a fact. And I'm very, very picky about who I have on my program. I want to say that first and foremost. And Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, I think what they do is the best. Nick Greenwell and the rest of the folks that are physical therapists over there, they really care. They really help you. That's right, helping you get back to being you and feeling like yourself and feeling like you want to jump out of that chair and chase that lariat around the moon or whatever it might be. I'm telling you, you don't want to sit in a chair and mope and go, oh, woe is me, I ache and I hurt. No, don't be that way. Call Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, 678-1191. And they can help you get back to being you. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I've got just a moment here, also want to remind you about Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Give the old Scotty a call and arrange with his crew for your fruit trees that need trimming and your shrubs that need trimming and your trees that need trimming. And oh, by the way, now is the time to be sure and set up an appointment with them for maybe the installation of your sprinkler system or the repair of your sprinkler system. Call them at 438-2485. Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. You know, Kim Jong-un over in North Korea, what bothers me about this little porky pig is that I don't think that we, the citizens of the United States, and other countries and their citizens really take this little pork chop seriously. And it is his goal. You can see it, you can hear it, you can read about it. It is his goal to basically be the world's only dictator. You can see it and hear it. He doesn't care about human life in any way, shape, or form. All he wants to do is be the big powerhouse. He's like the little pot-bellied bully from grade school. Just because he outweighs you and everything, he's going to try to be the yard sheriff during recess. And, you know, if you just stand up to this guy and just knock him in the end of the nose and make him go away. Well, he comes out yesterday, and he came with this phrase. He said basically he wants to turn the United States into ashes. He wants to kill all of us. And he wants to entirely blow up the United States with his missile system. And for propaganda purposes, this corpulent little worthless being had a video put together, and they showed one of his missiles hitting supposedly one of our Air Force jets and blowing it all up. I mean, he's so intent on showing how powerful he is and how he's going to try to kill us. But the man is insane. The man is nothing but a power monger. And the man does not care about human life. When you add all those things up, you have got to put him in some relevancy. And you've got to sit back and say, whoa, we better do something about this little pimple right now. Or it may be too late. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call on the landline. I would love to talk to you. Hey, by the way, if you're having trouble hearing, I know who you should get a hold of. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup. Yes, they are located across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room. Number to call, 312-0957. I'll say it again, 312-0957. And call her and say, I want to go through that hearing screening program because I'm having some trouble hearing. Well, there you go. And the hearing problem might be related to medicine. It might be related to a health problem. You know, she can help, and she will, at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Call her for an appointment, 312-0957. Take care of that today. Absolutely good people. Oh, and by the by, I'll tell you what, I can see him out there. He's working hard already today, and that's Jeff and the whole crew at Magic Valley Irrigation, 44 East, 500 South of Burley. Hello, Jeff, and we sure appreciate them being on our program this morning, and they are serving all the farmers with any irrigation needs whatsoever. As a matter of fact, they furnish all the U-bends and the handline risers and the Heliarc welding and the pumps and the manufacturing of wheel line elbows. Oh, man, you name it. They're there helping you with your irrigation systems. Magic Valley Irrigation. You call Jeff and the crew. They're ready to serve you at 678-3101 or 431-3101. Really good folks at Magic Valley Irrigation. All right, your turn. Give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give us a call. Do you know, I'll get back into that in just a minute. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for your call.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb.
Hello, Tony.
This little blimp that's over there doesn't realize how many countries are depending on the United States for their very existence. And if anything happened to our country, China would be one of the ones that would suffer. So I don't think China's going to keep putting up with these threats that this guy is making to the world.
I hope you are right. I hope that you are spot on. But until I see some proof in the pudding to where China, either by sending over a delegation or sending a note that says, hey there, fat boy, you'd better curb thy tongue or we're going to come down on you to a cat like a plate of milk. And until I see something like that, I'm not going to say that it's going to happen.
Well, I guess evidently he doesn't read anything about history, about what happened in World War II. You know, Germany was going to take the world over and Japan was going to whip us, and look what happened there. And that could happen to his country.
Well, I agree with you, but my concerns are right now we've got too many hot spots. We've got too many people in too many countries that honestly think they have no respect for our power or that we will ever yield that power, thanks to the Obama administration basically sugarcoating everything we did for the last 8 years. I put the blame on Kim Jong-un's power or his wannabe powerful on Barack Obama. I do. I hang that right in his closet and say it's his fault.
Well, I think he's given, this little blimp has given encouragement to a lot of the enemies of the United States, and he's figuring maybe if he started something with us, all these other people would jump in on the United States and try to put us down.
I agree with you. But we can't let this fester. I mean, this is a infection. over there in North Korea that many of our allies are very, very worried about. They're concerned about what he's going to do, what he's not going to do with his hair-trigger personality. And I think that the man has to be taken out now. Whether there's liberal loonies in the audience right now that don't like that phrase or not, I couldn't care less. Kim Jong-un needs to be taken out now.
Well, he's firing all these missiles off, and one of them could go haywire and end up in the wrong country.
Amen. Tony, it's always good to hear from you. God bless you, man, and have a wonderful day.
I will. Thank you.
All right.
Say hi to Deanne.
I will, sir. Thank you. Calls welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, that great big Southern Idaho Women's Expo is coming up at the Best Western Burley Inn on April 13th. Woo! Going to be a big deal. I mean, a big, big deal. Sponsored by the Minnecasia Chamber of Commerce, Idaho Central Credit Union, and Idaho Housing and Finance. And they're going to throw open the doors at 9 o'clock in the morning. And, boy, if you're a business and want to get a booth space there, you better check on it today. And a great place to advertise your business. Call 679-4793. 679-4793 for the Southern Idaho Women's Expo for 2017, April 13th. Don't you miss it. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I saw something in the news yesterday, and then I heard it reported again this morning, and this was kind of a shocking percentage to me, that there is, involved in the media, there are only about 8% or less of the media, be it newspaper, television, radio, whatever, of the media, only about 8% or less believe and have faith in God and go to church. 8% or less. And then after I read that about that recent survey, and you think, wow, it is no wonder that the stories on the print form or on television are so jaded against Christianity and so slanted against family values, because less than 8% of the journalists have a huge disconnect against Christians and Christianity and religion, and they couldn't care less about it, and they denigrate it. I guess that is the only answer. 8% or less go to church or believe. Woo! That's kind of spooky. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call, please. I want to talk to you about a TV show, and you're going to kind of snicker a little bit when I say this in just a second, because you're going to go, you watched that show? Yes, I did, and I'll explain why in just a minute, and I'll tell you what it was. Yesterday, we had Amy on from Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center. Nice lady. Oh, she was so pleasant to talk to on the phone. And Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 924 Christian Way in Rupert. And the number to remember, 436-3200. Yep. They are the only locally owned and operated assisted living facility in the Minnecasia area, and believe me, they would love to have you come by, see their facilities, talk to them, and understand what they can offer for your family member. Believe me, they got beautiful patio in the backyard, and they hold outside barbecues, and they go to various functions around the community. Oh my goodness, Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Located at 924 Christian Way in Rupert, 436-3200. I don't really want to say this and sound like I've lost my macho, but I watched last night Dancing with the Stars. I know, here come the raspberries. You'd watch that? I did, and I'll tell you why I did. Because David Ross from the world's champion Chicago Cubs, Man, that's still hard for me to say because I didn't think it was ever going to happen in my lifetime. From the world champion Chicago Cubs, the catcher, and at his last at-bat in the World Series, stroked a home run out of the park. David Ross was one of the contestants on that Dancing with the Stars. And I had heard that. I saw a little story in the paper about that, and I thought, you know what? I just want to see what that old guy, he is a lot older than most of the ball players, and he's retired now, but with the catcher legs. You know, catchers don't normally have legs that are going to be, available and ready for all the dance moves and everything else. You know, they kind of go clump, 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 clump. That's just the nature of the beast. Being around baseball all my life, catchers are not the most graceful in the world. But anyhow, I thought, well, I just want to see how he's going to do. So we watched it, and in the preliminaries, I told Deanne, I said, I got a feeling that in the first vote, when they vote whether they can stay on for another week or whether they're going to get eliminated and get thrown out of there, I said, I would imagine that David Ross is going to be one of the first to go. Au contraire. Man, did I ever have egg on my face? He came out last night. He's never danced before in his life, according to his family and his wife and other friends. Never had an interest in anything like that. And the guy had one of the highest scores of anybody on that program last night for the first night out. I mean, wow. And so I was pretty impressed. I like the guy anyway. He's got a great personality. And then when his dance was done before they gave his scores last night, they had a closed video shot of the spring training headquarters for the Chicago Cubs. And there were all the Cubbies standing there cheering him on. And I thought it was just great last night. So David Ross, getting a little long in the tooth and long in the earlobe, but lead on. He looked pretty sharp last night. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd like to talk to you, and we'll talk about anything you want. Hey, by the way, you know what's coming up on April 5 through the 10th? Well, I'll tell you, the 45th Annual Salmon Select Horse and Mule Sale. Wow. Fred Snook, my good old buddy up in that neck of the woods, has done it again. Going to have that great big horse and mule sale, and it's going to be at the Lemhi County Fairgrounds in Salmon. On Wednesday, April 5th, they're going to have the Ty Evans Mulemanship Clinic, and then on Thursday, the activities really get going. They're going to have a big social hour, and they're going to have a parade, and Friday on the 7th, they're going to have at 6 o'clock in the evening the big mule sale, Saturday at 1 p.m., the big horse sale, all of this and more at the 45th Annual Salmon Select Horse and Mule Sale in Salmon, Idaho at the Lemhi County Fairgrounds. Don't you miss it. Going to be a dandy event, I guarantee you. They have fun. Boy, do they have fun up there. You got to get up there and try it. Oh, boy. Redder Showcase. Hello, Guy. How you doing? The annual March Madness sale is going on at Redder Showcase. Come on in and you'll find great, great bargains. All appliances, furniture, and Serta mattresses on sale. 12 months, same as cash. Now, you can't beat that deal with a stick. And then don't forget, on Saturday, April 1st, be ready for the annual shootout. What is that? $5,000 worth of prizes? Come on into the store and they'll tell you more, and they can sign you up for the shootout today at Redder Showcase, 2611 Overland Avenue in Burley. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Let's see what else have I got to talk to you about here this morning. Oh, here we go again. I mean, I am so sick of these people today. Well, I don't like it when you play Kate Smith and God Bless America. I don't want to hear that word God. Or, I don't like it when you have the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't like that part in there, that one nation under God. Or, now here come the loony liberals out from underneath the rug again. and they're making big gripes and complaints regarding our national anthem. Again. And the mudslingers and the bottom feeders are coming out, and they're saying, well, we've got to stop that. Nope, we've got to stop the national anthem. Why? Some of the liberal loons are coming out and saying that it was written by a white man, Francis Scott Key, for whites only. What? I mean, I heard these remarks, and I read some of these remarks, and I thought, what are you doing? Francis Scott Key was white, so evidently he was racist, and it was for whites only, basically 245, 50 years ago. So evidently that's a racist attitude, and we got to get rid of that song. And they said the verbiage in the national anthem in the first and second verse are racist, so we got to do away with that. Now, I have read through here and very carefully have looked at the words in the Star-Spangled Banner. And if you folks out there in the audience can show me and prove to me that there's something in there that is racist and against other races, and it's a pro-white song, holy buckets, bring it on. I just can't believe this. And the loons are out there saying, well, we've got to get rid of that song. And even if the loons that want to change the national anthem, if they were ever to get it through, I mean, seriously, if they were ever to force it upon us that we couldn't have the Star-Spangled Banner anymore, I will promise you that if I'm still on the air, the national anthem will be as it was. I will never change. I am not going to stop Kate Smith and God Bless America. I am not going to stop with the Pledge of Allegiance saying, under God. And if anybody ever calls my program and wants to do the Pledge of Allegiance and purposely leaves that out, they will have my wrath. I will find out where they are and where they live, and I guarantee you we will have a little bit of a confrontation. Not going to happen on the show. Not going to happen. We have changed so much for the liberalism in this country, and I, for one, will not kowtow to these people, nor should any of us. But go ahead, caller, please chime in.
Yes, I'll try to be quick. It is so obvious the people of America need to just say, okay, there's no doubt. They're trying to take our America away from us. You're trying to stop them, and I'm doing what little I can do. I try to do more. But it is so obvious that this is just another part of taking another endearing clause we have in our lives as Americans. And I'm just livid. I don't usually call in because I get this way. I just get livid. So I apologize for that.
You never have to apologize to me, sir. God bless you for your call. Now, don't hang up. I want to ask you something. Do you hear on a frequent basis the national anthem? I mean, do you go to sporting events? Do you go to various activities where you hear the anthem on a frequent basis?
Yes.
Well, I do too. And with my career that I retired from, announcing rodeos all over the United States and Canada, I probably, and this is not a brag, it's a fact, I have probably heard the national anthem more than almost everybody. I've heard it thousands upon thousands upon thousands of times. And I still get a chill up and down my backbone when I think about what happened at Fort McHenry with our soldiers and their valiant effort to keep our flag flying high. And the rockets, like they say in the anthem, red glare, the bombs bursting in the air, our flag was still there, and I still have the tears on occasion run down my cheeks, and I'm not embarrassed to say it.
Well, you're sure starting mine, Deb, and you are absolutely correct, and just proving again you're a true patriot. And doggone it, they're not going to take it away from us. We can die trying to stop them if they get that strong.
I agree.
Got to have everybody helping.
That's the whole point of the problem, though, is getting people to get up and get involved in this day and age. I don't know why people sit back and go, come see, come saw, and just let it go.
I don't agree with that.
Well, God bless you for your call, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice man right there. You know, I was looking at the other verse, and, thus be it ever when free men shall stand between their loved homes and the war's desolation. Blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must, when our cause it is just. And this be our motto, in God is our trust. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. I have no respect in any way, shape, or form to anyone that wants to take away the meaning of that song and what it stands for. Calls welcome 436-2244-1-866-927-4587. Time for our weather, and the weather brought to you by the Urgent Cares. Riverview Urgent Care, 382 North Overland and Burley. Twin Falls Urgent Care, 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin. And Jerome Urgent Care, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome. Minor emergencies. Major care. I mean, you go in there and you go, I got a cut, or I got a sprain, I fell off the ladder, or I got the flu. They can help you. They will. They're open 7 days a week. So please stop in to the Urgent Cares. And right now, here's the weather.
That flood watch is still in effect through Thursday. Here is your weather for Zeb at the ranch. We are looking at partly cloudy skies for today. A little bit on the breezy side, not too bad. High of 68 is what we're looking at tonight. More clouds are going to be rolling in, and we have about a 60% chance of rain showers and thunderstorms in the early evening hours. Low right near 40 tomorrow. Those rain showers could continue, about a 30% chance. Mostly cloudy skies for Wednesday. High of 57, overnight low of 37, and for Thursday, looks like mostly cloudy skies, slightly breezy, and a high of 56. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Gina, thank you. Excellent job again with the weather forecast. Brought to you by the Urgent Cares. I'll be right there, caller. Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care in Twin Falls, and Jerome Urgent Care in Jerome. And remember, minor emergencies, major care. Caller, good morning. Thank you for your call.
Yes, young child Bell. You know, that's one of the reasons I listen to your radio station, is because you always start it with the pledge and honoring our country. You always try to honor our country every way you can. And I think that makes you a pretty nice guy for a young kid.
You're being very kind to me. You know, you and I aren't that far apart in age, but God bless you, Jerry. It's the way I feel, and if somebody, somewhere, ever tells me that I can't do those things on this program, I'll pull the plug myself, because I'm not going to be dictated to as far as patriotism is concerned.
We need to love our country. We need to love the people around us. You know, it's just part of living a life that's good. If we start hating each other, we're going to lose all the way around.
I agree with you. My dear friend, the blessings to you. Have a great day. I got another call. I'm running short on time, but you have a wonderful day.
Yes, and may the Lord bless you and every one of them other children out there listening.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Jerry. God bless you, man. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you.
Morning, sir.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, just, you know, what they're doing is, and they've been doing this for 50, 80 years now, trying to take our rights away, turn this country into third world nation,
Yeah.
just so that they can get the world government.
Yeah.
One world government. And how you do that, you take just a little bit here and a little bit there, just like you put a frog in a pot of water, put it on the stove, and you just keep gradually turning up the heat pretty quick. The frog's cooked, and he's not really realizing it.
Well, okay, but wait a minute, Doug. You're a sharp guy, and I think you'll agree with me that when you get these loons out there that have too much spare time on their hands, and they study words, and they study phrases, and they try to twist it and turn it so that it's racist. Okay, I'll give you an example. I would bet you a $100 check that if you and I kept saying the phrase, Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow. After saying that a couple of times, these liberal loons would come out and say, we got to change that poem because it refers to whites are better than anybody else.
Exactly. They need to go back to the Webster Dictionary and look up a word. It has a meaning. And that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot change a meaning of a word just because you don't agree or you want to control people.
Tell me, though, in the words of the first stanza, second stanza, whatever, in the national anthem, Our Star-Spangled Banner, tell me where these liberal loons that have got the IQ of a box of nails, where is it racist? Where is it a white man writing for whites only? Tell me, Doug, come on, educate me.
It isn't, and you know it isn't, I know, and they know it isn't. But it is something that they can pull the race card, the white supremacy, just like Tucker had on TV last night. This guy was calling that, is it Gorsuch that's going to be the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
Calling him associating with white supremacists.
Well, right there you make an excellent point, because when I listened to Feinstein out of California yesterday, I was walking through the living room when she came on with a soundbite, and she said that she's absolutely against Gorsuch because he is an original constitutionalist. And I thought, holy buckets, we all should be.
Exactly. I heard that too, and I thought to myself, this girl was either off her medication or has taken way too much of it.
I honestly think that Feinstein and Pelosi and some others, when the day is done back in Congress, I think they go into one of those little broom closets and tip some bottles that absolutely will make you walk funny. I don't think this girl's right.
Well, I think they tip the bottles before they even go into the chamber.
It could be. We might have to have a sobriety test for the Democrats.
Well, I think they should have a drug test for all senators and congressmen.
But isn't that the initial goal? I got to ask you this, though, Doug, because it really irritates me. Isn't that the goal, basically, for the United States, is to be an original constitutionalist?
Exactly. And what is their oath? What's state that's to protect and defend the Constitution?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be a college graduate with a degree rolled up with a ribbon on it to say that these people are nuts.
This is a fact, buddy. You don't. I mean, all they got to do is open their mouth, and you can realize exactly, how uninformed they are, or how they're wanting to manipulate us. So if they keep saying it over and over again, it must be true.
Yeah, and when she said that and she leaned forward into the microphone, I thought, lady, please take 2 aspirin, go lay down. You're not well. I got another call, but Doug, God bless you for your call. Thank you.
Hey, and everybody remember your senior centers.
Amen, Doug. Amen, buddy. Thank you. Caller, stay there. I'll do a quick commercial. I'll be right there, and we'll wrap up this hour. Stand by. Spring tire sale at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Don't forget, all 7 locations serving you. And they've got tires for your car, your pickup, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever. They've got all the tires. Great tread designs for your different styles of driving. Stop in and see them today. Their motto, doing the right thing matters. At all 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, exactly 1 minute. Go.
Zeb, all of the verses of the Star-Spangled Banner, our national anthem, they all have a tremendous message for us if we would just take time to sing or to read them all. They have a tremendous message.
I agree. I totally agree, and like you said, read it slowly and understand the words and the feeling and the situation of which those words were contrived for that song, and you get a feeling that'll send an icicle up and down your back as to the somber attitude that we should all hear that song.
Yep. I did 30 years of refereeing, and I heard that Star-Spangled Banner a lot as well as you. Thank you. Have a good day.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you. It's very true. Very true. I think what I'm going to do, I already went through the second stanza, but I'm going to read the first stanza here in a little bit this morning if I get the chance, or else I'll do it tomorrow morning in the first hour. It means a lot to me, and nobody's going to change that national anthem. Not around me. We'll be back in about 7 minutes with more Frosty Woolridge after the CBS News. Don't go away. Oh, my, we're back in the saddle and ready to rock again. Here, Deanne, I'll take that. Do you have a call coming in, or what do you need? Calls are welcome at Zeb at the Ranch with, of course, me, Zeb Bell, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, Big Spring Tire Sale going on right now, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Always at your disposal. How true. Call that number 734-6969. Don't forget they've got all the porta potties. Oh, that's pretty important. And especially now everybody's out working in the fields and planting time around the corner. You better give them a call. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Nice people helping you at 734-6969. Also want to remind you about some other really good folks, and that's, of course, if you have animals, whether it's dogs, kitty cats, or a herd of cattle, or horses, whatever it might be, Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street in Heyburn. Dr. Bill, Dr. Liz, the whole crew. It's a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small, they love them all. And they do, according to their slogan, have warm hearts for cold noses. You better take care of your animals, and they can help. Ark Animal Hospital, 750 21st Street in Heyburn. Number to call, 678-1177. Real quick, before we go to my guest, don't forget, too, Southern Idaho Women's Expo coming up on April 13th at the Best Western Burley Inn. Lots of people there's going to be there. And, of course, it's going to be at the Best Western Burley Inn, sponsored by the Minnetonka Chamber of Commerce, Idaho Central Credit Union, and Idaho Housing and Finance. And if you're a business and want to have a booth out there, what a great place to advertise your business at the Southern Idaho Women's Expo. Number to call, 679-4793. On Tuesdays, I look forward to just a good old boy conversation with one of my dearest friends, and that's Frosty Woolridge in Golden, Colorado. Good morning, Frosty. How you doing?
Good morning, Zeb. Well, maybe we should just get down to the Coors company there in Golden and tip a brew together on the streets of Golden, Colorado.
I'm not at all opposed to that. I'll see you there at exactly 3:30 this afternoon.
All right. Well, it's enjoyable. I have to share that Golden, Colorado is, the gateway to the West, essentially, and it was where Buffalo Bill did a lot of his fun stuff. And I pass by his grave virtually every day. I ride my bicycle on Lookout Mountain, and he's buried there. And there's a nice burial site, and he and his wife are buried there. But all of Golden has a big statue at the north end of town with a child riding the shoulders of Buffalo Bill. But he was a showman. He was a historical figure. He rode on the Pony Express as a 15 or 16-year-old. Of course, he did all the shooting of the buffaloes for the railroad trains and all that goes with it. But when you get down to the Golden, you get to see all that wonderful memorabilia of the Old West, and it still is just quite the old town in the same front street there, Washington Ave, and it's a great celebration of the West right there in Golden,
I agree. Hey, last night, what I wanted to talk to you about this morning is that last evening, Donald Trump, our president, was in South Carolina. And outstanding, huge crowds to listen to him last night. Enthusiasm like I haven't seen for I don't know how many presidents. But anyway, there was one lady last night that was interviewed, and perhaps you picked up on this. She was interviewed and asked why she was there. And she said, because I support President Trump and I support what he's trying to do to help us with our immigration problems. And she said, and she was pursued on that answer a little bit by the interviewer, and she said, it's not whether they, the illegal immigrants, are legal or illegal. She said, it's about assimilation or part of an invasion. And when she said that, that really piqued my interest because it's so true. It's about assimilating into our culture and becoming Americans, saluting the flag and being a part of the American dream, or they're a part of the invasion that wants to do us asunder. There was a lot of merit in what she said last night.
I actually saw that interview, and there's no question. If all of these illegals, and there are 15 million Mexicans alone, and as high as 31 million, according to Ann Coulter in her book, Adios America, and if they came with guns, we would have the army down there on the border literally interdicting at this point and fighting them. But instead, they're coming in as in a stealth manner. They're quietly moving across the borders. They're taking jobs from American citizens. They're literally upending our school systems. They're literally taking away our universal American English language here in this country. And they're changing the ethos of our country. And so this is an invasion. Anyone that thinks it's anything less than that. And you're seeing the manifestations of it, whether it's the Muslims in Minneapolis, Minnesota, creating a parallel society, Dearborn, Michigan, a parallel society, or simply Miami, Florida, a completely parallel society. Anybody in Idaho, just take a trip down to Miami, and I guarantee you, if you spoke English, nobody would even answer you because they don't know how to speak English down there, and they really don't like you. And then if you look at what's happening in Southern California, whether it's in San Diego or simply in L.A., you've got 4 to 5 million illegal aliens. They are being protected by Jerry Snowflake Brown and all of the great mayors of San Francisco and L.A. and so forth. So this is an invasion. It's plain and simple. And it's also being facilitated by the Congress because the Congress won't stop. Again, 350,000 anchor babies every year birthed in our country illegally, and then we give them citizenship, and then we give them all the welfare because of this misinterpretation of the 14th Amendment. So any way you look at it, Zeb, and every person listening, this is an invasion of our country.
Yep.
And essentially, if it's not stopped, and we get such characters like the judge of the Ninth District Court or any of these other judges that are stopping our president from doing his job, I just don't know. I don't know what else to do. And so that's what we're facing. But yes, this is an invasion, Zeb.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a quick question. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air. Quickly, please.
Yes, I haven't been able to listen like I wanted, and I don't know if you touched on this, but the rape of the 14-year-old in Maryland by the two, Hispanic immigrants or illegal aliens, whatever you want to call them, and they were 17 or something. They had no business being in the school. They couldn't speak English. But a 14-year-old girl was raped. I have a 14-year-old granddaughter, And will that girl ever be the same? You know, when you come from chaos and you come into our country, you have no idea how to respect it till you are forced to do so. And we're not doing that. I'll hang up.
You know, and I was going to bring that up to you in just a moment. I'm glad the caller called in with it, Frosty. I'm sure you're aware of this story, but I'd like you to comment. Go ahead, please.
I am. Well, there's no question, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. When you look at all the rapes and all the killings and all the drunk driver killings by illegal aliens in this country, you're looking at, again, a complete change of ethos. You're looking at a lack of respect for women. You're looking at violence as the only answer. You're looking at violation of women sexually. You're looking at a violation of our laws. You're looking at a violation of the basic tenets of the U.S. Constitution. Every woman in this country has the same rights as every man, and that was hard fought. I mean, you can talk to Susan B. Anthony. You can go right on down the line. And women in this country really are the freest and have the most rights of just about any country in the world, along with Canada and along with Europe and along with Australia. And yet, again, Congress and the members of Congress and the last numbers of presidents have allowed this invasion of our country where these people coming in here are used to rape. They're used to maltreatment of women. They're used to violence toward women, and I would absolutely share with you that the Muslim immigration invasion should be stopped immediately and literally deport them, because anyone who is a Muslim advocates for Sharia law, and Sharia law is about rape. It's about making women a property of a man. It's about killing gays. It's about acid in your face if you don't comply with the male Muslim dictate, and so. That's just exactly what's going on. I think there's one website. It's called the dark side of immigration.com, or I think it's the dark side of immigration.com. But there's quite a few sites out there. We're talking thousands of rapes. We're talking thousands of burglaries. We're thousands of killings. Whether it's Kate Steinle there in San Francisco, or Donnie Young, a police officer who was executed here in Denver, Colorado a few years ago, or two women who were killed at a Baskin and Robbins with a little boy, a 5-year-old boy who was killed because a drunk illegal alien from Mexico drove into that Baskin and Robbins. I know many people know about that, and he had been caught 5 times and let go. So you have a collusion of Congress, you have a collusion of all these mayors and of these sanctuary cities, and so then you have the rapes. And it's always easy to read that stuff because it didn't happen to you, but it happened to somebody. It happened to a loved one. That 14-year-old girl right now will be traumatized for the rest of her life, this moment, and all the ones that have been killed or raped along the way, and it's their families. Well, at some point, if we keep allowing all of these illegals to come into this country, one of us, all of us, or whatever, we're going to become victims of this invasion one way or the other.
I totally agree. That was a very well thought out statement, and it goes in adjacency with what I wanted to talk to you also and bring into the conversation. Representative Steve King of Iowa, and he's taken a lot of heat for his comment that he said a week and a half ago, you cannot rebuild your civilization with somebody else's babies. You've got to keep your birth rate up in regards to our culture, our heritage. And you know what? Even the Republicans came after him and said, oh, no, you shouldn't have said that. Why? That's an inference that we don't want Muslims here. Let me tell you something. I don't want them here. I do want the American culture to survive and thrive. And I think Representative Steve King was spot on. What are your thoughts?
He was exactly spot on. Again, if you keep allowing, and I've said it many, many times, if we don't defend our culture, if we don't defend our own ability to function as a society and as an ethos, we're going to lose our country, we'll lose our ethos, and we'll lose our society to this unbelievable and unending immigration. Again, 100 million more legal immigrants coming in from 196 different countries in the next 30 years. You better believe they're all going to be pushing for their cultures, their languages, their religions, their way of life. Again, as I've said, and even in my book, America on the Brink, we're not going to hold in the center because we're not going to have people holding for America, pushing for America. advocating for America. They're going to be advocating for every one of their own countries, and that's 196 different countries with another 196 worldviews. So it's not going to be pretty for any of us.
You know, I do not know the man personally, but I do know some of his family members, and I'm talking about Neil Gorsuch, nominated for the Supreme Court. And I first of all, let me ask you the short answer to this question. Do you know the man, and do you know the basics behind the man?
I've read a great deal. He's from Colorado, and he is a very, very good man. And before I lose this point, for those of you who really want to see this dark side of illegal immigration, go to www.usillegalialiens.com. usillegalialiens.com, and it will give you all the facts and figures of the rapes, the burglaries, the murders, the killings, the cars running over people, and so forth and so on. That will give you exactly, you'll know what I know when you get to that website, usillegalialiens.com. Now, as far as Gorsuch, you know, for the most part, Congress and guys like Schumer and Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer and all of those snowflakes, they really don't have a chance against this. Gorsuch's going to be passed because he has such an impeccable record, and he has a constitutional record that you can't sit there and say, oh my gosh, and make up all these funny stories that are going all over Washington, D.C. right now, whether it's the Russians were into our, electoral system or whatever. Gorsuch is a solid man, and he's a solid federal judge, and I suspect very strongly that he is going to be confirmed, and he's going to become the next Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, but Frosty, did you hear the total incompetency bordering on the idiotic that Dianne Feinstein said about Neil Gorsuch yesterday in her criticism of him? She said, and I'm paraphrasing, not a direct quote, she said, I don't know if I can ever support him because he is an original constitutionalist. My goodness, Frosty Woolridge. We all should be original constitutionalists. What in the world is the matter with this perverted woman?
Well, and I heard that. I watched. You got to understand, Dianne Feinstein. I mean, I think she's 84 years old. And God bless, but 84 years old. She's not that sharp. She's really lost a lot of intellectual capacity. I mean, when I'm 84, I'll probably barely be able to speak myself. But here she is, a senator, and she's so out of touch with what's really happening here in America because she's been sitting up there in Washington, D.C., doesn't have a clue what's going on in the lower ranks and down there in the working man and woman of the streets. And so she says something as ridiculous as that. I mean, ridiculous. But you'll get the same kind of phrases from somebody like Schumer, Charles Schumer. He says ridiculous things like that. Harry Reid was unbelievably stupid in some of the things that he said. And so Dianne Feinstein, I mean, 84, she's out of touch with what's going on in America, and so she makes just complete horse's ass of herself, and she makes a ridiculous statement like that. And that's just Dianne Feinstein. That's why we need term limits. That's why we need term limits.
I agree with you.
Harry Reid, John McCain, all of them. That's why we need term limits.
I agree with you. But, the problem is she had a soundbite that was picked up by all the absolute insane liberal networks, ABC, CNN, CBS, whatever. And that soundbite was basically, I can't go for him because he's an original constitutionalist, as if that was something bad. And the people that are not the sharpest knives in the drawer across the United States, don't take the time to understand politics, don't take the time to understand the benefits of living in the greatest society ever in the history of the world. They pick up on that and they go, oh man, that Gorsuch is a bad guy. He's an original constitutionalist. They haven't got the brain power of a box of nails to figure out that he's what we all should be.
Well, and that's correct, because the Constitution is what keeps us free, and it keeps us online with our basic human rights and the ability to be a free country. And so, again, you have to understand, whether it's CNN, whether it's Jake Tapper, or whether it's Mika Brzezinski, or any of these other really far left and far out, really non-journalists that have so much say, you intellectually want to vomit because they're on such a trek. And another thing is jumping all over these things. This whole Russian thing is going to blow over because there's no facts behind it. There's no nothing. It's just news that they're hyping to hype the American public to sell more or whatever they sell on their news service websites and on their TV programs. And it just hypes the American people beyond belief. They should really just give the facts. That's why the mainstream media has been called fake news, and it's no longer been really validated anymore because they fed us such a bunch of baloney for so many years now that the American public, certainly the thinking American public, doesn't even believe anything they say, and they actually are going to, channels like yours right now, Zeb at the Ranch. People understand that you're giving the facts and the figures. You're getting speakers on the show that are bringing the down home, if you will, facts and figures of what's coming off and what's going on in America. You can go to News with Views today, my latest piece on the refugee mess. What are we doing to ourselves? Why would we bring 100,000 Somalians with an average IQ of 68 and stick them in the middle of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and think they're going to function as Americans when the average IQ in America is 100? We've taken an alien bunch of beings, alien country, alien bush people, and we forced them over here into a high-speed technological society, and we think they're going to thrive? They're living on welfare. But you look at somebody like Schumer or Feinstein, and they support all that. But then you get somebody like a Steve King who makes sense and says we need to create our own and continue our own society by our own birth rates, not as foreigners from other countries and other societies and other cultures. These snowflakes like Jake Tapper and Mika Brzezinski, I'd like to get them one-on-one on an interview, and I would just literally lacerate them with facts and intellectually kick their butts. But, of course, they don't want to talk with somebody like me. They just want to keep their own baloney going, and that's how they do it. And so you and I, we try to bring the reality of what's going on in America, and I think we do a very good job of it. And that's why you're so popular. That's why other radio talk show hosts are so popular at the ground level, and that's what America's all about. This is still ground level America, and we're going to fight for our country, and I'm going to fight right along with you.
It makes me absolutely sure when I say this statement that Laurel and Hardy and the Three Stooges and others of that ilk are alive and well and have been recloned in the name of the mass media. These people are complete buffoons.
They are complete buffoons, and there's no question, because they don't give you the facts. They don't give you what's really going on here in America. They powder puff everything. The Denver Post just last week, put a big story about all the wonderful immigrants and how they're doing so many things. Well, they don't tell the real reality of the immigrants here in Denver and across Colorado that are killing people, and the burglaries and the rapes and the drunk driving and the forged documents and the forged Social Security cards and all the taxes that are not being collected because of the paychecks are always in cash. They're not talking about all the illegal alien employers that have not gone to E-Verify. They don't tell you about how Boehner, the former Speaker of the Congress, killed E-Verify. He stomped on it for 2 years there, and so we still don't have E-Verify because of who? The Congress. The Congress of the United States, our elected officials. They're not doing anything to stop illegal immigration into this country because they're not going to the root cause, and that's the employers who hire illegal aliens. And I'm going to do a story on that. And the New York Times just did a piece on it today. That the fact that E-Verify is not being adjudicated and no one's paying attention to it. It's right here. No crackdown on illegal employers. Editorial board of the New York Times. I've got this right here, and I'm going to use part of this in my column. And that's the deal. We're just not having our elected officials enforce our laws, and it's because there's a whole lot of money being exchanged, whether it's the U.S. Chamber of Commerce or it's Marriott or McDonald's and all the big CEOs who are paying somebody off to make sure these laws are not enforced, and therefore we've got 48 million Americans on food stamps and over 8,000 or 8 million that can't get a job.
Right.
They can't get a job because all these illegals have got the jobs. And that's documented. Over 8 million jobs are now being taken by illegal aliens in our country.
I got to run, but I just want to say, wow, you got me up and ready to come out of the corner and go to the 10th round, man. I'm ready. Frosty Woolridge, God bless you, man. Talk to you next week.
Godspeed, Zeb.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. I love having him on the air. Straight talk with Frosty Woolridge. I appreciate it. Hey, by the way, don't forget, too, our wonderful, wonderful friends at Hanson Mortuary, 710. Pardon me, I put a 1 in there. Not available, Zeb. 710 6th Street in Rupert. And the number to call, 436-5636. Joel Hewitt, his family, his staff, all of the folks working and serving you. When there's the passing of a loved one, they help you with all the arrangements, with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Please write the number down or give them a call right now so you don't forget. Find out more about pre-planning of funerals. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. That number again, 436-5636. Serving you, Hanson Mortuary. Also, want to remind everybody, my dear friends, Nicole over at Mad River Laser. Woo, baby, are they having a great big spring open house. This is going to be a ripping good event starting on the 24th and going through the 31st. The entire gift shop is going to be on sale, and they want you to ask them about free engraving and about free embroidery, and they're going to have door prizes. Oh, my goodness. Have you been to Mad River Laser? She has done a lot of work for us, and she is ultimately the first class of that type of business. Let me tell you, Mad River Laser at 502 East Street. Number to call, 436-2293 on the square. And that, of course, Mad River Laser. Super nice people. In a moment, we're going to have James Taylor on with the Heartland Institute back in Chicago, Illinois. Stand by for that. Quickly, I want to remind you, too, about Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. And spring, yesterday, the first day of spring, I celebrated with my lovely bride. We cranked up the old four-wheelers, got them out of the barn, and away we went for a very short ride, but by golly, it was great. Well, if you've got four-wheelers, get them serviced for this spring and summer. Take them over to the service department at Let's Ride. If you don't have any ATVs, well, then you'd better get over there. They've got a showroom full. Excuse me, stop over to Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, where the fun is sold. And real quick, too, as I choke to death, when you think about life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and employee benefits, yep, you better be thinking about my friends, and they are. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Very dedicated, very responsible to your needs. So please call for an appointment today. 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. You give them a call right now. And speaking of right now, I'm going to go to the phone line. I have the utmost respect for this man. He's been on my program many, many times in the past. And I say good morning to the Heartland Institute and James Taylor. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Doing well. How are you doing?
Well, I guess I'm okay, but it just seems like the global warmers and the climate changers, they will not go back into their nasty little closets and lock the door. They always seem like they want to come out and have new information. Now, the story that was out in the USA Today the other day with a very dramatic headline was, oh, climate change is making Americans sick. Would you explain that to me?
Yeah, so this is nothing new. This is something that they come out with from time to time. The assertion is that global warming isn't just killing bears, it's killing polar bears, it's killing people. And they will point to things. They'll claim that asthma cases are up because of more pollen in the air. They'll claim people are having more allergies. They'll claim that people are overheating or they're having, heat-related illnesses or, sudden health scares that can lead to death. The problem with this is that we know that just the opposite is the case. Just in 2015, a study in The Lancet, which is a peer-reviewed British medical journal, probably the most prestigious medical journal in the world, they found that approximately 20 times more people die from cold weather and cold-related incidents than die from warm weather. We also know, as just a matter of common sense, that during the cold winter months, that facilitates influenza, which is one of the largest killers on the planet. It also leads to more deaths from overexertion, shoveling snow, etc. So the claim is one they just raised to try to drive people to action, but the facts tell us a different story.
James, you've done all this study, and you've talked about this many, many times on my program. Are they lessening in their attack on us that don't believe in climate change / global warming? Do they realize that the American public, if it was on a scale of 1 to 10, they put global warming concerns way down at the bottom of the basement? What's happening? Are they going to eventually give up, or what's going on?
Well, they're becoming more and more strident and vitriolic. You quoted the USA Today article, which I've read. The first article I read on this topic when it became a news story the other day was on the CBS internet site.
Right.
And it was like reading an Environmental Defense Fund propaganda sheet. All these assertions claiming that it's a fact that global warming is causing more wildfires, when in fact wildfires are decreasing dramatically. Claiming it's a fact that global warming is causing more extreme weather, when the opposite is the case. And they present it like if anybody holds otherwise. And they say, and yet only 1/3 of people can name a specific reason in which global warming is harming their health. Like that's a bad thing, when in reality global warming is helping our health. These are the ways that they're shooting themselves in the foot, though. For example, when they claim that having more pollen in the air because we're having more plant growth is a bad thing, we know darn well that if forests were shrinking, if crops were less productive, if we had less vegetation as a result of global warming, that would be a bad thing. But when they claim that better plant growth is a horrible thing because it may cause more pollen in the air because plants are more productive, they just shoot themselves in the foot and lose credibility.
Yeah, but James, wait a minute right there. Stop. You've been on the program, like I said, many times. We've discussed this problem many times. But are we making any headway? What can we do, you and I? What can we do to tell these people that go home at night after work and they hear this barrage of, man-made climate change? How can we educate them in the real truths? I mean, what more can we do?
Well, I think there's two ways that we are making headway. First, we see in the election results, the state, local level, and this past national election at the federal level, where we see that people that are trying to make an election issue out of global warming are the ones that are losing. People that are calling sound science, and presenting it are the ones that are winning. But also, we're also making progress in the sense that although the net benefits of global warming have exceeded the harms at this point, we can make a case that it might be wise to slow down carbon dioxide emissions if it makes economic sense, just as an insurance policy. And what we see is that we just came out with data for the 2016, and U.S. carbon dioxide emissions are now at their lowest level since 1991. And the reason for that is low-priced natural gas is winning out in the marketplace over coal.
Right.
Without these government top-down restrictions, but allowing the market to work, allowing the most affordable energy sources to rise to the top, we are solving the problem without even trying to solve the problem, even if there were a problem.
Absolutely.
So we're there, too.
We have a caller with a question. Caller, quickly, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Well, people forget without CO2, we don't eat and we don't breathe. And most of our plants would like to have about 4 times as much CO2 as they have now. Our plants are starved. The other thing I'd like you to comment about is the fact that the global warming hoax is the poster child of the United Nations Agenda 21 movement to control all life on the planet. And then the fact is that one volcano like Mount Pinatubo in 1991, I believe, lowered the temperature of the planet 1.3 degrees and caused all kinds of catastrophic things. And one volcano does more than all the human activities on the planet for a whole year. I'd like him to comment about those things.
All right, caller, thank you very much. Go ahead, James, if you would respond, please.
Right, all very good points. The reason why we're seeing record crop production, although the CBS News article I mentioned earlier claimed that we are seeing dwindling crops, the reason we're seeing record crop production globally in terms of gross production and yield per acre virtually every year, a major reason is because of the better climate we're getting. We're having longer growing seasons, more soil moisture, more precipitation, etc. And of course, carbon dioxide more in the atmosphere. There's a reason why people pump carbon dioxide into greenhouses, because it makes plants grow better. In terms of the other points the caller made, again, it's spot on. Now, when he mentions the United Nations, I think one thing that this calls to mind is internationally, one of the best things we can do to appease folks on the alarmist side without giving up affordable energy, in fact, a way to improve our economy, is that in Asia, air quality is so poor because you have so many people concentrated and rapidly developing economies. You see them in the photos with the surgical masks walking around in public. They are demanding, they are seeking clean-burning, affordable energy. Given a choice between clean-burning and affordable, they choose affordable because they're living at a much lower living standard than we are. But natural gas, as I mentioned before, is right now cheaper to produce electricity than coal. And if we could just allow export facilities on the West Coast, we currently don't have any. We have environmental activists blocking them, ironically, for stated environmental concerns. If we would get government out of the way and allow people to build export facilities on the West Coast, we could transport natural gas to Asia, which would help improve their air quality, would improve our economy because we'd be exporting energy. And if you do believe global warming is a crisis, we'd be reducing carbon dioxide emissions at the same time. Internationally, that's the best way to advance American and global interests.
Absolutely. James, I sent back for a copy of the book from the Heartland Institute, Why Scientists Disagree About Global Warming. And I found it to be a very, very interesting book, and there was one paragraph in there I want to read in its entirety and then have you respond. Quote, while it would be ideal if scientists could be relied upon to deliver the unvarnished truth about complex scientific matters to governments and voters, the truth is they almost always fall short. Ignorance of research outside their area of specialization, reliance on flawed authorities, bias, and outright corruption all contribute to unwarranted alarmism in the climate change debate. Boy, that really jumped off the page and hit me between the eyes. I thought that was a good paragraph. Respond, please.
Right. Scientists are people just like everybody else, and they have their own political predispositions. There are predispositions on a variety of topics. And when you hear and see the media quoting or referencing, quote, scientists say this, scientists say that, and may quote specific scientists, you'll note how they're almost always citing and quoting scientists who work either for government facilities or for universities. It's no surprise that government employees tend to be much more liberal than the population as a whole. You'll note that in every state in the country, wherever the state capital is, that's about the most liberal-leaning area voting-wise in the state. And also those who work at universities, again, the same thing. So if you're going to government-affiliated sources for quotes, sure, you'll find some who believe that. But there are many, many more scientists out there who do not rely on the government perpetuation of the global warming crisis for their salaries and their fame, who will tell you a different story.
You know, let me ask you this question then in the book. There's so many things that this book goes into and really lays the facts on the table. And we've been told that in the last 20th century that, oh my goodness, we're burning up. And then there was a quotation in there, the late 20th century warm peak was of no greater magnitude than previous peaks caused entirely by natural forcings and feedback. So in other words, the cyclical changes of weather patterns really persist, and the global warming alarmists, they can't buy into that, can they?
Right. Now, we do know that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, all other things being equal, and it's hard to determine whether they're equal or not, but all other things being equal, we are likely producing some warming. But we also have to keep them in context, and context and history tell us that there are periods of warming and cooling. There have been periods where temperatures have been warmer than today during the course of human civilization, and we did just fine. So tell us we're causing a crisis just because we may be causing some warming. If that was the case, then we would have had many climate crises before when temperatures were warm, and yet we know from the historical record that humans fared quite well and generally flourished when temperatures were warmer.
You know, when you go to work in the morning at Heartland Institute, what is a day in the life of James Taylor? I mean, are you always on the hunt for various information and quotes from the liberal left so that you can make a counterproductive quote against them? I mean, tell me what you do daily to help us that absolutely want to fight these liberals that are promoting climate change.
Well, Zeb, as you know, I've been affiliated with Heartland now for 16 years. For the past year or so, I've been spending more time with my own public policy organization, the Spark of Freedom Foundation, but I still, of course, am affiliated with Heartland and work with them. So for this week, for example, the Heartland Institute is putting on an international climate conference in Washington, D.C. We're bringing together scientists, economists, public policy experts from around the world. And we're going to have congressional staff, members of Congress speaking, attending, as well as many other scientists and the public as a whole just attending. It's also going to be live streamed on the Heartland Institute website, heartland.org. So I'm spending my week this week putting together data, making sure I'm up to date on the most recent and on-point peer-reviewed studies and objective data so that we can present to policymakers and the general public the best information there is on the topic, so they don't have to take our word for it, but they can go to the source themselves, and they can make up their own minds.
Absolutely. We have a caller. One last call. Go ahead quickly. You're on the air.
Well, you know, you're having a port that would ship natural gas to Asia. You know, I was just curious because of the governors along the West Coast, Brown, and Inslee. And not a one of them has a lick of sense, common sense. How much disruption do they cause? I know they don't control it, but they can disrupt. And then, in some cases, I know that we're shipping coal to Asia, if I'm not mistaken, or we're shipping it offshore. And now, if we use our own coal, it's cleaner because we have clean coal technology, and we know that Asia, India, Russia, wherever else they're using it, they don't care. I'll hang up.
Respond quickly, James, please.
Okay, the second point first. China produces 4 times as much coal as we do, and they dominate the coal markets in Asia. So if we were to ship natural gas to Asia, it's not going to come at the expense of U.S. coal production or coal exports. It'll displace the Chinese economy some, which is okay because, frankly, we can use the growth a little bit more ourselves right now. In terms of the blockage of export facilities on the West Coast, I've written a few articles of this on my Spark of Freedom Foundation website. So if you go to sparkoffreedomfoundation.org, you'll see me documenting this. But we have state officials, local officials, and national officials, 3 levels of government officials that have been recently blocking export facilities. Now, with the new administration, I would hope and assume that at least at the federal level that would stop. And I think it would be very helpful if Congress and if federal regulators went to the states and said, look, you can no longer block this. You can't come up with bogus environmental permitting reasons to interfere with interstate commerce. Freedom of interstate commerce is guaranteed in the U.S. Constitution. So I think that would go a long way towards allowing our economy to grow, solving environmental issues in Asia, and allowing the people to have more power and government officials less power to stifle our economic activity.
Final thought here real quick, James, on Scott Pruitt, head of the EPA now under the Trump administration. And I don't think there's anybody with any common sense or the common sense that God gave a billy goat that ever wants our water to be dirty or our air to be filthy. But, you know, the lessening of some of the rules and regulations from the EPA are absolutely necessary if we're going to grow economically. What are your thoughts about Pruitt, and what do you think is going to happen with this administration?
I think Pruitt is a very sharp guy. I think he's going to bring a lot of common sense back to the EPA, and I think he's going to curtail a lot of EPA's overreach. Keep in mind that unlike what was the case 50 years ago, before EPA was created. Right now, there are state environmental protection agencies. Every state has its own state-level environmental protection agency, Department of Environmental Protection. And many of these are more stringent than the federal EPA. It's not like if EPA were to disappear, or in this case, simply curtail itself a little bit, that the environment would just go back to a horrible state. We have state environmental protection agencies protecting us, and these are environmental officials who live in the state, who work in the state, who've grown up in the state. They know what's important, and they know how to protect the environment, how to be stewards of the environment without destroying jobs, without destroying communities, much better than bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. So I think we're going to see, under the present administration, a shift of power from Washington, D.C. to the state departments of environmental protection.
With the sparkoffreedomfoundation.org and also the Heartland Institute, a very good friend of this program, James Taylor. God bless you, sir, and thank you for coming on the program. I'll be in touch for another program in the future. Thank you.
You too. Thank you, Zeb.
All right, sir. Thank you very, very much. You know, folks, honestly, the lies and the innuendos from the left about climate change and about the global warming and about, we're all going to die. Well, we're all going to die is true eventually. Maybe some today, some tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, whatever. But it probably will not be from their assertions on climate change, that's for sure. These people are loons. I've read some of their works and some of their statements, and it's nothing more than to get a 7-letter word over all of us, and that 7-letter word is control. Right now, let's go to the weather forecast, and the weather brought to you by our dear friends at Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. I talked to Lyden Crane the other day, as a matter of fact, had a nice visit with him. By the way, he's very fluent in Spanish and can offer any of the services of their CPA firm in Spanish. Oh my goodness, they are good with tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, payroll services, retirement planning. You had better remember to call and work with the best. Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company, with locations in Burley and Rupert. Right now, here's the weather.
That flood watch is still in effect through Thursday. Here is your weather for Zeb at the ranch. We are looking at partly cloudy skies for today. A little bit on the breezy side, not too bad. High of 68 is what we're looking at tonight. More clouds are going to be rolling in, and we have about a 60% chance of rain showers and thunderstorms in the early evening hours. Low right near 40. Tomorrow, those rain showers could continue, about a 30% chance. Mostly cloudy skies for Wednesday. High at 57, overnight low of 37, and for Thursday, looks like mostly cloudy skies, slightly breezy, and a high of 56. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Gina, thank you, and brought to you by The Best. They've been serving the Mini-Cassia area for well over 50 years. Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company, CPAs, with offices at 1710 Overland and Burley and 620 5th Street in Rupert. Thank you very much. Our weather brought to you this hour. Absolutely. And, by the way, I'll take another call. Give me another jingle on the landline. Got time for about one or two more calls. While I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, don't forget Ag Express is looking for drivers. Yes, they are. Full and part-time drivers are wanted. And retired folks, hey, you're welcome to give a call too and try to put your application in there. They'll work around your schedule 2 or 3 days a week, and you're home every night, whatever works best for you. And don't forget, they got a great vacation schedule, a great benefit program. What are you waiting for? You call Dale and Paul at 438-8886 or Alan in Twin Falls at 731-2495 or Russ in Burley at 431-7175. Ag Express is looking for drivers. Ag Express is looking for you. You better give them a call right now. Okay, what else have we got cooking here? I got time for one more quick call. Quick call, and we'll talk about anything. Let's see. As we talked about with Frosty, the Gorsuch nomination hearing is going on right now. A bunch of all to do about nothing. And let's see, what else have I got here? Talked about David Ross, Dancing with the Stars, and we talked about the fat little despicable leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un. All kinds of things. So if you want to chime in, feel free to do so. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I just want to make a quick note, and for those of you that know me and know my wife, we have done a lot over the last 15, 20 years for the Meals on Wheels. And I've had quite a few calls come in, and people say, oh, that Trump, why, he is taking away all the money from Meals on Wheels. No, that is not true. That is not true. Now, there have been really some steep cuts to hundreds of domestic programs, but on behalf of President Trump's first budget proposal to Congress, no, Meals on Wheels was not one of them. And I'm going to try to get into this. I'm going to call Catherine over at the Senior Junction and try to get her on the air for a little bit tomorrow and talk about this. I haven't even mentioned it to her yet, so she's probably listening and going, oh, really? Well, yeah, we are. And but I want to go through this in any way we can help with the seniors, we will. Caller, I've got 1 minute, real fast. Go.
Okay. No, that's not, like you said, that's not true. He does. Trump's not doing that. And I wish some people could say that because he's doing what he's supposed to do. You know, he did his job. And I wish somebody get off the butt and could say that because that's not true. And I like the way he's doing his job right now.
I appreciate that call, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to go into the nuts and bolts of this. And I'd say this, and I'll say it. I've said it before, not only on this program, I've said it in speeches that I've given around the area. Our seniors, in my opinion, are probably the least respected and the least cared for of any group of our population. And I find that to be abhorrent. I find that to be obscene. And I'm going to do all I can still at my old age to try to do all I can to help support the Meals on Wheels program and our seniors. And for those that are out there denigrating what's going on right now, we've got to make cuts. We've got to get this budget under control. We've got to get spending under control. And quite frankly, I'm in favor. Every time I look at that $20 trillion plus figure that goes up every minute, every second of the day, thanks to runaway spending, I say, you know what? We've got to do something, and we've got to do it now. We're going to take a little break and come back with Dr. History at 10:06. Don't go away. Zeb at the Ranch. I'll be right back. Oh, my goodness sakes, here we go. Hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch, and welcome back. Brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and also some of our great advertisers, like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Like I said the last hour, Ag Express is looking for drivers. Ag Express is looking for you. That's right. They need full and part-time positions for drivers, so please give them a call. Stop in. They absolutely have a great vacation schedule, benefit program, and they'll work around your schedule. Retired folks are welcome to apply. Holy cow, you better call today. Ag Express. Call Dale and Paul at 438-8886. Allen and Twin Falls, 731-2495, or Russ and Burley at 431-7175. Ag Express, looking for drivers, and they're looking for you. By the way, too, I want to remind everybody about our friends over at Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center. As I said, we had Amy on the phone with us yesterday explaining who they are and what they are, and they're serving you and your family members. What a wonderful place for a family member Center, Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 924 Christian Way in Rupert. It's the only locally owned and operated assisted living facility in the Mini-Cassia area. 16-bed facility, and they would love for you to stop by and exactly find out more about them, their personality, and how they can serve you. Please write the number down. Give them a call, 436-3200. Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center in Rupert. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Right now, it's time for Dr. History, and Dr. History is brought to you by our dear friends at Mini-Cassia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport, with old Zach and the crew. And now I have no idea where this man is. I think he's hiding out in a cave that used to be inhabited by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, someplace in St. George, Utah. Here's Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How did you know I was in a cave?
Just quick thinking, I guess.
Okay. Well, I'm not in a cave, but I am in St. George. Yep.
What are we going to talk about today, my dear friend?
We're going to talk about a little outlaw activity, a little shoot-'em-up action. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me. Go for it.
All right. So we're going to Oklahoma Territory about 1895. There's a guy by the name of George Miller. George was kind of a well-liked farmer in this Oklahoma Territory. He'd raised a good crop of corn, and since there were a lot of ranchers around about, a lot of cattle, so Miller put up a nice barbed wire fence around his crops. So that kind of may give you a hint of what we're headed for. George and his partner, a man by the name of Glover, they lived in a dugout, which, of course, is just kind of a place dug out of the side of a hill, which a lot of people did. Well, one morning, Miller came out of his dugout and grazed over to look over at his cattle, or at his crop, and he saw a bunch of cattle tromping around in his cornfield. Well, George hightailed it out there and drove the cows out, found that the fence was down in a few places, so he wondered about this because he had a real nice fence put up. So he wondered about that, but he didn't care for the cows eating his corn. Well, the next day, a second time, after he'd repaired his fence, he noticed the rancher who owned the cattle, who had happened to be there, but they were in his corn again. And sure enough, the third morning, here they are again. Well, by this time, George Miller was getting pretty upset that this rancher just let his cows go into his cornfield, which, that's probably pretty good feed, a lot better than sagebrush. So anyway, he was a little hot under the collar, and he noticed that the fence wasn't just down, it had been cut. So he knew what was going on. So George, he jumps on his horse, and he heads straight over to the rancher's place and told him the next time cattle found their way into his cornfield, they would be shot. Well, like so many ranchers of the day, this rancher didn't care for what they called, quote, nesters, who strung up fences all over the place, sometimes fencing off a needed water hole, and he didn't like Miller's threat to slaughter his cattle. So there were some hot words tossed around between the two, and finally George Miller swung into a saddle and galloped back to his dugout. Well, you can guess what happened. Next morning, sure enough, first thing George saw was a bunch of cows eating their way through his corn. So George, he got pretty hot, pretty upset, ran back to his dugout, got his trusty Winchester, and proceeded to knock down a couple of cows. Now, the rancher must have heard the shots because in no time, he and the cowboy came tearing up on horseback. Now, both of them were armed, and an argument flared up. Miller, who was a crack shot with a rifle, held his Winchester cradled in his arm, sort of pointing the barrel in the general direction of the rancher. Well, when the cattleman made a move toward his six-shooter, Miller drilled him dead on the spot, just shot him. Well, the cowboy that was with him, he took off, and Miller let him go. But George knew he was in for trouble. And now Glover, his partner, hadn't seen what happened, so he didn't have any witnesses, so to speak. And the cowboy that was there probably wouldn't tell things right. So George decided he had to clear out for a while. And Glover, his partner, promised to take care of the farm and the livestock while his partner was on the run. Now, figuring a posse soon would be on his tail, Miller headed for rough country. Now, riding down a wooded canyon, he spotted a horseman who was armed, and Miller thought at first he might be a lawman. Well, at any rate, he figured his best chance was to lay low, and as the stranger moved his way, Miller hid in a thick growth of bushes. He dismounted and was standing with one hand holding his horse's nose so the horse wouldn't make any noise. In his other hand, he held his rifle with the hammer cocked and pointing at this stranger. Now, George Miller was doing some mighty fast thinking about then. He figured, well, if this guy is a lawman, he planned on letting him go. Now, if he was an outlaw, his know-how might be of some help in helping him dodge the law. Well, as the rider drew closer, George studied him over the sights of his Winchester. The guy kind of looked a little rough, and he says rough as a corn cob and not like any lawman he'd ever met. And George decided to take a long chance. Well, when the rider was about 50 yards past George's hiding place, George gave a sharp whistle, let go his horse's nose. The rider whirled in the saddle and leveled his own rifle at a spot near where George was hiding. Well, George yells out and says, "Don't shoot, I'm dodging the law," George yelled. And the rider must have been in doubt as to exactly where the whistle had originated, but the shout made him dead certain of the location, because his gun barrel shifted squarely at the place where George was hiding. Well, the stranger yelled out and says, "Come on out and don't try anything." Well, George Miller walked out leading his horse, keeping his rifle pointed to the ground, and the guy says, "Now you walk right over here and keep that gun pointing just like it is." Well, Miller walked out, and every step of the way, the fellow's rifle was trained on him, and when he reached the man, Miller told him about shooting the rancher, and all the time he was talking, the stranger kept his rifle pointed at Miller's chest and just kind of studied him over, kind of looking him over. Is this a good time for a break, Zeb?
Well, yeah, but it's like a Saturday morning cereal. I'm so anxious to hear the rest, but I'll come in here and I'll quickly tell everybody about Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Oh, if you need an overhead door, they've got a great big display of those over there. And if you need an interior door for your home, I know all about their interior doors. Excellent. We bought one, and they also have helped send over the contractors to do the installation. Windows, upgrade your windows, and don't forget too, they've got great deals on carpet. But they are so personable and so helpful with Zach and the whole crew over at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley. You stop in and see them today or give them a call at 878-2091. And they bring you Dr. History. And right now, back to our saga for this morning.
Okay. So here we got a guy sitting on his horse, pointing his rifle at Miller's chest, kind of wary of him and not knowing what to expect. And like I say, Miller told him the story, and when he finished, the other fellow seemed about half convinced that it was true. So he told George to put his rifle in its scabbard and be right careful while he was doing it. So George carried no pistol and did as he was told, and only then did the stranger seem to relax a little bit. But even as they rode along together, the fella kept his rifle resting across his saddle, his finger on the trigger of the cocked weapon, and George was just a little nervous because you know how sometimes a horse might jar just a little bit and could accidentally pull the trigger. But anyway, he didn't say anything. They kept going. And he saw, too, that the fellow's left hand also was over the butt of a nice six-shooter. And anyway, they were just kind of riding along like that, this guy not taking any chances. Finally, George Miller could no longer stand the strain of the cocked rifle, and he said, "Hey, don't you trust me any?" And the guy says, "I don't have a six-shooter, and you George said, "I don't have a six-shooter, and you made me scabbard my rifle, and you've still got that cocked rifle pointing at me." Well, the man replied, he says, "I don't trust anybody, and that's a quick way to get yourself killed." Well, every time they reached the place where they had to ride single file, Miller's companion was real courteous, always reined up and let George go ahead. And each time this happened, George wondered if he'd get shot in the back and left for the coyotes, and kind of gave him a creepy feeling. You know, I would imagine you'd feel a little nervous if somebody's behind you with a rifle on your back. But anyway, after several miles, the fellow must have felt certain George had told the truth, because he uncocked the Winchester and began to talk a little, but he kept one hand always at the pistol that he had on him. Anyway, something he said gave Miller the first clue who the man might be, and that sure put George to thinking. For the outlaw George had in mind had a reputation of being as bloodthirsty as any in the whole Southwest. Well, it was October, so it was a little chilly, but when they made camp that night, they didn't have a fire, and after eating some groceries, the outlaw told George to bed down. Then the man took both horses, led them off to one side where he tied them up, and then he disappeared with his bedroll. Well, each night he did the same thing, and George wasn't about to go check him to see where he was sleeping or not sleeping. Well, after the first night, George slept without too much trouble because he figured, well, if this bandit had planned on killing him, he would have done it by now. So, anyway, gradually the stranger warmed up a little, and one day he told George, he said, "My name is Red Buck. Maybe you heard of me," and proceeded to describe some of the killings he'd done. Well, this sure didn't ease George Miller's feelings any. He had known at the time they'd met that this was Red Buck, the renegade. He would have let him ride right on out of his life and wouldn't taken any chances. But, you know, what was done, and George knew he'd have to make the best of it. Well, after a few days, their supplies were getting a little low, and Red Buck wanted to rob a store. Now, George objected. He really wasn't an outlaw, but the outlaw was pretty sure about this whole thing, and he suggested they go back to his farm at night and send Glover. Now, Glover, you recall, is George's partner.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted Glover to go into town and get some supplies. Okay, so finally Red Buck agreed. Miller had never known what caution was till he watched the outlaw as they drew near the dugout. He acted like a hunted animal, almost like he was scenting danger with his nose. And he kind of lagged behind with his pistols cocked. And George tapped on the door. Glover opened it a little bit, and George told him it was all right, that he had a friend with him. Though he never did say who the friend was. Now, Glover said something about lighting a lantern, but Red Buck changed his mind on that. So George asked Glover to go after supplies and to keep quiet about the whole thing. Well, his partner consented, saddled up his horse, and rode away. And old Red Buck, he says, "You know what? I don't like your partner. He's going to double-cross us." But George allowed. He didn't think Glover would do that. Well, it was a bright night under a full moon. Red Buck was sitting on a box just inside the door when he'd been watching. And he talked a little bit, but not much. Anyway, Glover'd been gone about 3 hours, and the moon had kind of reached the top, and Red Buck whispered, he said, "Somebody's coming, and there's more than one." Well, pretty soon he heard hoofbeats, and riders began to take shape in the distance. There was a light tap on the door. Red Buck opened it just enough to let the man in, then closed it. And Glover said, "George, if you'll light the lantern, I'll show you." Well, that was all he said, because at that instant, a .45 exploded, and Red Buck had shot Glover. Shot him dead right there, cold-blooded. Well, George Miller and the desperado made a run for the horses and took off across the moonlit prairie, bullets flying all around them. But even with the whole posse throwing lead at them, not even a horse was hit. So, but, you know, when you're going full speed, I don't think your aim is going to be all that great. But anyway, Miller and Red Buck were lying flat over their saddles, leaning over, and they were so busy whipping their mounts that they never tried to shoot back. Well, finally they eluded the posse and rode all night. Next day they holed up in some brush. Their ammunition was low, and they had to get some food. So Red Buck said he was going to rob a store. There was nothing George could do about it but come along or get shot right then. So Miller figured, okay, I better go along. Well, they rode over to a little town, walked into a store run by a man and his wife. Now, when Red Buck pulled his guns on them and told them what he was after, the man got mad and gave the outlaw a good cussing. Well, Red Buck then flew off the handle and shouted, "Why, you old fool," he says, "I'm going to kill you." And he would have done too, but George Miller and the man's wife talked him out of it. And this Red Buck was a bad guy. He was just going to kill this guy. Anyway, so Red Buck held his pistols on the couple while George dumped some groceries and ammunition into a couple of sacks, and then they rode away. And anyway, the pair dodged the law for several days, sometimes being just ahead of them. But at last the posse caught up with them where they had holed up in a dugout. Anyway, they were kind of behind some trees and some rocks, and the battle began. Now, bobbing their heads up and down like gophers in a hole, George and Red Buck, they would take stray shots at the lawmen, but the posse men stayed low and kept pouring lead into the dugout, and this went on for quite a while. Then a bullet found Red Buck, and he was done for. This was October 2nd, 1895. Well, George kept up the fight until a bullet took 3 fingers off his left hand, leaving only the index finger and thumb. So, he was bleeding pretty bad, and he kind of got sick, he says. And he shouted to the posse that he was wounded and Red Buck was dead. But they kept right on firing. Well, Miller could do nothing but shoot back. Finally, he got so weak, he had to quit firing. And the lawmen waited a spell and then came on in. They captured Miller, who was almost dead. They took him to a town, and a doctor patched him up. Well, after Miller got some of the strength back, the lawmen took him and the dead outlaw back to the store they had robbed. And the storekeeper identified him. And the man and his wife identified Red Buck, but refused to implicate Miller because they figured he had a lot to do with their still being alive, which he did. He talked Red Buck out of shooting him. Anyway, Miller was brought to trial for killing the rancher. Now, a lot of the neighboring farmers and even some of the ranchers thought the killing had been justified, and Miller was released. He went back to farming, and after a while, the memory of this short outlaw career died down, and he became a respected citizen again. So that's the story of Red Buck and George Winchester, who lost 3 fingers in a battle. And I've actually got a picture of Red Buck in his death pose. They used to do that, Zeb. They'd, whenever they killed somebody, they'd put him in the casket and lean him up against a building and take pictures of him.
Yeah.
And this guy, he kind of looks like a rough character. He got a big old bushy black mustache and black hair. And anyway, so that's the story of Red Buck and George Miller.
Now I got to ask you this, and it's not meant to take apart any of the story, but who wrote the story and upon what basis of fact?
Okay. I like this story because there was a guy by the name of Sanford Boren, who was an early settler in Indian Territory, and he drove freight wagons through this area, Cheyenne, Arapaho country, in the Texas Panhandle.
I see.
Well, he died in 1963, and he had seen a lot of the characters across this Oklahoma area. And he had, in his own opinion, about Red Buck's last days, that he knew about these guys. And anyway, so it's kind of coming hand-me-down, so to speak, but it kind of is first person, is sort of, because of the people that knew Red Buck and knew George Miller.
Now, there's so many...
This is from, actually from a magazine, Frontier Times, from July of 1970.
Okay.
So the story is comes from an old magazine, but like I say, I think it's pretty reliable.
When you talk about this story, and there's so many other stories like that in the Old West as to bad guys, people that went wrong, even though they were kind of pushed into it. Here's a case of a farmer, and I've only got 2 minutes left, a farmer that was only trying to protect his property, and quite frankly, the whole world got tipped upside down and ruined his life for quite a long period of time.
Yeah, luckily he was able to come back and was acquitted of shooting the rancher. And like I said, this rancher must not have been very well liked, because even some of the other ranchers said, yeah, he deserved to be shot.
Yeah, Okay, now you're down in St. George, Utah. Do you think maybe you can put it upon yourself to come home?
I'll see which way the wind's blowing about next Monday. But I think it might be blowing back up to Idaho.
Well, I hope you're having a wonderful trip. You've seen a lot and done a lot on this vacation.
Yeah, we have, and maybe next week I'll talk about some of the places I've been in the last couple of weeks. Part of which is the Oregon Trail, and I've got a couple of stories about that I'd like to tell next week.
What about that area, real quick, down there at St. George? As a matter of fact, with all the beautiful location, the beautiful scenery, and the state and national parks, etc., there must be a lot of Western stories about people going over that area in the old days, and it must have been really hard traveling because of being such an arid location.
Right, and there were a lot of wagon trains that came through this area that were headed to California rather than to Northern California. So, yeah, this whole area was there was a lot of travel through here.
Okay.
We're actually going to go over into Zion's Park today and look at that. So people have never been there. That's a pretty amazing area.
Absolutely. Dr. History, thank you. Job well done, and have a safe trip home, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Ed. You have a good day.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Excellent program with Dr. History, brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach and the whole crew serving you. You be sure and stop in or give them a call at 878-2091. Minnecasia Sales, your windows, your doors, they've got it all. Carpet and your luxury vinyl, they've got it all for you. Stop in and see them today at Minnecasia Sales in Burley. You know, on, of course, Thursdays, we have a segment on our program called Cassia County School Days. And our two sponsors for that are, of course, Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue, Suite E in Burley for your outpatient surgeries. Please check out how they can save you a lot of money on colonoscopies and tonsils and glaucoma surgery, etc. The number to call, 677-8888. That number again, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center on 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Along with A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. My goodness, you can save a lot of money shopping there. Shop local and save. They've got all the children's clothing. They've got the cribs and the strollers. And, of course, they've got the Cherokee scrubs and the shoes. They've got it all for you. Please stop in and see them today. A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley, with Ambulatory Surgery Center in Burley, bringing you School Days in Cassia County on Thursdays at 10:10. We're just about ready to send it back over to our main studio, but I want to remind you, too, coming up on April 13th, don't forget the Southern Idaho Women's Expo, sponsored by the Minnecasia Chamber of Commerce, Idaho Central Credit Union, and Idaho Housing and Finance. It's going to be April 13th at the Best Western Burley Inn, and it opens at 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, business people, if you'd like to have a booth there, you better be calling the Chamber office right now at 679-4793, 679-4793 for the Southern Idaho Women's Expo, April 13th. There you go. Let's send it back over to our main studios. I'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll-free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Hey, my friends at Mad River Laser at 502 East Street in Rupert. They are going to have a great big spring open house on March 24th all the way till the 31st. The entire gift shop is going to be on sale, and you need to ask them, Nicole and the crew, about free engraving and free embroidery, and they're going to have door prizes. Oh, my goodness, they're going to have a wild spring open house at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert, right on the square. You can't miss it. Give them a call, too, if you have questions, 436-2293. The very best, Nicole and the crew at Mad River Laser. You know, I saw a story in the paper, and I thought to myself, you know, this would be really interesting to talk to these fellas and get them on the air and talk about a firearm shop and a survival shop. And we're going to see, hold it a second, I'm just now getting an email. Nope, not for me right now. And I thought I'd give them a call and see if they wanted to go on the program this morning and talk about their new business called Brothers in Arms. And we have, I'm going to probably mispronounce his name, so I'll apologize in advance. Sandy Lilia, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you today?
Good. Now help me on the last name. How do you say that? I probably messed it up for you.
No, you nailed it. You're one of a million.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about your business. I understand you and your partner Chris Ayers have merged, and you've got a firearm and survival shop called Brothers in Arms. But tell us a little bit about it. What do you do?
So we like you said, we just merged our companies. I had a company called Specked Out here for about 3 years, and Chris had the Brothers in Arms company. Specked Out did survival gear, survival training, 72-hour kit evaluations, and uniforms for police and that sort of thing. And Chris did all the firearms, so it was kind of the perfect merger for us. So we took on the Brothers in Arms names and merged this year, and we decided to open up a shop here in Filer.
Now, with all the, and I got to say, the liberal loons in this country that are anti-gun, they're anti-anything, what about starting a business like this? Did you have a little trepidation about selling guns and going into kind of the survival equipment, that type of thing?
I wouldn't say we have any trepidation, but there is a number of resistances in the market. Just to get a loan on a facility that you're going to sell guns, or even to get insurance, it's kind of problematic sometimes. A lot of companies don't even want to talk to you if you say you're going to sell guns out of it. So that's probably one of the greatest barriers to entry in this market. But we're sure excited about being able to offer something different here in the Magic Valley, especially here in Filer, as we look to, hopefully rejuvenate some of downtown Filer.
Yeah, no. Sandy, the Brothers in Arms, right off the bat when I read that, I had the feeling of the camaraderie of the service folks, our military. Is that basically where the name stems from?
Yeah, quite a bit of that. We're huge supporters of law enforcement, military, veterans, and first responders, and we want to be an entity that takes care of them and makes sure that they can get the appropriate equipment for a reasonable price, so that they're not taken to the cleaners trying to support and take care of the community. So, but yeah, it's a brotherhood that we look at as we join forces in this business.
Now, let me ask you, as far as the survival equipment, I've had many segments on my program that is heard nationwide, and we've talked about survival, food, and what to do, how to do it, and that type of thing. Do you teach that to your customers?
Yeah, so our intent isn't to just sell you something and kick you out the door, but we're looking at providing some training-type opportunities or clinics that some of them will be free and some of them will be paid, but bring you in and talk about fire one day, or break it down to simple things: fire, water, shelter, and food. And there's a lot of people that they put together a pseudo 72-hour kit or emergency kit, but most of them don't have any idea how to use some of these really cool items they have in their kits, like an IPAC, an individual first aid kit. And so our intent is to put together some clinics like that and allow them to come in and put hands on some of those things, see how pepper spray works, see how, how to make a fire primitive style, and, what tools they're going to need in order to be able to survive even something as simple as a car breaking down out in the middle of nowhere with no cell service, and talking about plans, that sort of thing. So, yeah, we fully intend on being able to educate people that patronize the store, as well as get them some solid equipment.
Now, let me ask you, Sandy, you and Chris, are both of you pretty well versed in survivalist training through perhaps your stint in the military? Give us a little background on that.
So I've been in the Air Force for the last 17 years. I'm a National Guardsman through the Air Force, but when I first got in, they sent me through SEER schools, Survive, Evade, Resist, and Escape training up in Washington State. They send you out into the woods with a map, a knife, and tell you to run away from the enemy for a couple of weeks. So that's kind of where most of my training comes from. But I did grow up running trap lines with my grandpa, that sort of thing. And so the outdoor survival mentality is something that's really natural to me. It's something that I really enjoy, that side of it.
When you look at the people that go up in the mountains and the people that are on four-wheelers, or the people that go up cross-country skiing, or the backpackers or whatever, this education with how to take care of themselves should they fall and become injured or whatever, you are very, very important to the survival of their life. And I think all of us, whether we're preppers or not, like you said, there's a fine line between being labeled a prepper or being prepared. All of us should have that knowledge if we're going to be up in the wild, shouldn't we?
We couldn't agree more with that. And one of the things that we kind of want to make people aware of is that our over-reliance on technology nowadays is just that. It's an over-reliance. At any one time, batteries die, or your solar panels crack, or your iPhone, for heaven's sakes, doesn't have either service or battery working out in the wilderness, that you may have to revert back to primitive methods of navigation or survival, Siri may not be able to tell you how to build a fire or, boil water out in the middle of nowhere. So those are the types of things that we really want to make sure, no matter what your application is out in the wilderness, in the desert, or even just driving down the road with your family, that you're better prepared either through plan as well as through equipment that you'll have with you.
Now, in cases of these courses that you're going to have, these classes, you're going to teach them a lot of this stuff, but now they're open for anybody, whether they're men, heads of the family, moms, or the kids. How do they get a hold of you and find out more about what you're going to teach?
So we're going to be posting a lot of that on our website. We've posted quite a bit on our Facebook page here, Brothers in Arms Firearms. And as we start to solidify those class dates, we'll post those on there. People will be able to RSVP and register for those events so that we can make sure that we have the appropriate amount of resources and we can handle it. We don't want to get overwhelmed and not make it a useful class for them. So we're going to have to manage those numbers as we come down to that. But we're going to offer as many as we can in order to take care of them.
We actually have a link on our website. If you go to BIA-firearms.com, you can go to the events tab, and we're going to list most of those there.
Okay. Now, I understand you're going to have a grand opening this weekend. Tell us a little bit about what's going to happen.
Okay, so the grand opening is this Saturday, the 25th, and we're going to be doing all of our big-time events from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're going to cook some hot dogs, and then we've got a couple of raffles going on. One of our raffles is a paid raffle, $5 for a ticket, or you can get 5 tickets for $20. And we're going to be raffling off an Uzi 22 caliber that half the proceeds from that paid raffle are going to go to benefit the Sergeant Travis Mills Foundation. And then we're going to have a number of other raffles for maybe a 72-hour kit, a water filtration bottle, some cleaning kits for guns, those sorts of things. We're going to have, in addition to all that, we're going to have some events for the kids. We're looking at doing some gun safety type questionnaires for them to be able to get some prizes. So this is a family-friendly event that we want to make sure that people come out, get an idea, meet Chris and I, and see what we're about, and hopefully be able to clear the store out of all the gear that we have here.
Okay. Now, Sandy, I've said for a long time on my program, like the old Hank Williams Jr. song, Country Boys Can Survive, it's not a fact of saying that the world's going to come to an end, but it's a fact that with political aspirations as what's happening in the larger cities today, and people, they don't appreciate where their food comes from, and they maybe only have a day's supply of food in their home, and boy, when they leave the big cities, they're going to be coming into the country land like locusts. We all need to be prepared and know what to do in the case of a major emergency. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. We fully agree with that. And that preparedness is not only just having your own appropriate resources to take care of you and your own family, whether that's self-protection, food, long-term food storage, that sort of thing, but also just the educational background to understand what types of things can happen and how do you overcome those individual obstacles is our main focus, to help educate and be able to provide those resources.
All right. Now, I want to say how much I appreciate your taking the time to come on my program this morning, and I wish you and Chris a lot of success with your business, Brothers in Arms, and hopefully all goes well for your grand opening, and I certainly will be in touch with you, and thanks for your time here this morning.
Hey, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to get an interview, a little publicity for us, but more than anything to help educate the locals. And just thank you very much for the time on your program.
You're very welcome, sir. God's blessings to you. Thank you very, very much. I got to get over there and check that business out in Filer. Brothers in Arms. Deanne, do you need this back? There you go. She's pointing, and I have no idea what she wants. There you go. But anyway, I'm glad they were on the air. You know, there's such a thing. And I mean this, it's not necessarily that you want to go live in a dugout dwelling 20 feet below the surface of the earth. It's not saying that the world's going to come to an end, but it is saying, and I believe this for a long time, that we have to be prepared for major emergencies that may be a continuation of a lack of power. It may be, perhaps, even an invasion by a very threatening force. You never know. But we have to be prepared. Whether it's with food and water or weapons training, whatever it might be, I think all of us, and this isn't sounding like some movie that you see at 11:30 at night, all of us need to be prepared for an onslaught of any emergency. And that's why I really thank Sandy and his partner for coming on our program this morning and talking about a new business called Brothers in Arms. We're going to have a weather forecast right now. I think we are. Yeah, I'm on time for a change. Wheels is going, holy smokes, what's the matter with this guy? Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, and the number to call, 324-7657. And believe me, they have got some delicious bacon. They've got what's called the buckboard bacon, leaner and more economical than traditional bacon with several different flavors. You're going to love it. Check it out along with their breakfast sausages and their brats. Oh, my, it is good. All of it is at Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Here's Gina.
That flood watch is still in effect through Thursday. Here is your weather for Zeb at the ranch. We are looking at partly cloudy skies for today. A little bit on the breezy side, not too bad. High of 68 is what we're looking at tonight. More clouds are going to be rolling in, and we have about a 60% chance of rain showers and thunderstorms in the early evening hours. Low right near 40. Tomorrow, those rain showers could continue, about a 30% chance. Mostly cloudy skies for Wednesday. High at 57, overnight low of 37, and for Thursday, looks like mostly cloudy skies, slightly breezy, and a high of 56. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch. And
it's brought to you by our friends at Scarrows Meats. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew. Man, these are good people with delicious meats. Go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, or give them a call at 324-7657. Located at 331 North Road, Jerome, Scarrows Meats, changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. How many of you folks really have taken some of the classes on surviving? How many of you have taken the various classes on how to learn what to do when the power goes off, and you know a little bit about the food for survival, and weapons training and what to do with no electricity and all that? How many of you really have ever done that? Or I should put it this way, first and foremost, do you care? I'd like to hear from you. What are your thoughts? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And while I'm waiting for your phone call, don't forget Redder's Showcase. The great big annual March Madness sale is going on right now at 2611 Overland and Burley Redder's Showcase. Oh, my goodness. You better get into Redder's Showcase and find all the great bargains. All the appliances and the furniture and the Serta mattresses are on sale. 12 months, same as cash. You can't beat that deal. And don't forget, too, on Saturday, April 1st, be ready for the annual shootout. What's the annual shootout? We'll get in the store and find out more. And they're going to have over $5,000 worth of prizes at Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland and Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. All right, give me some calls, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle real quick. I'd love to hear from you. I was going to answer the phone. That's what I was going to do. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to talk to Wheels, but I guess I'll talk to you.
Well, gee whiz, I hate to have you come down in the world.
I was in the car and only heard part of what you were talking about, and then by the time I got in the house, you were done talking with him.
Okay, what question did you have?
What was the name of the place he's running?
It's Brothers in Arms on Main Street in Filer.
Filer. How far is that from here?
Oh, you're talking maybe, if you're coming from the Burley area, it'd be roughly about 35, 36 miles. It's on Highway 30 on the west side of Twin Falls.
Okay. That's
okay?
real close, but
Well,
anyway, do they have the thing going all the time, or
they just started it up? They just started the business up in Wheels. I'm getting an awful lot of feedback. Watch that gain. They just started the business up, and their grand opening is going to be this Saturday. But the doors are open right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Calls welcome, 436-2244. Pardon my throat. Ay. Must be spring. And it must be the pollen in the air, the budding out of the trees and the shrubs and everything. Every year for the last, I don't know how long, in the spring, I've always had that throat that just wants to cause me all kinds of trouble. Anybody else out there have that trouble? Give me a call. I was doing some research about phone scams. And I was going to have a member of the Better Business Bureau on our program this morning talking about this. But the phone scams that they were talking about in the newspaper article this morning are exactly what Deanna and I have had on 2, 3, 4 occasions where they'll call my home early in the evening. And they'll say that we owe money, a collection payment on a past debt. And they'll ask to have you possibly use a wire transfer or prepaid debit card. Get the number. Don't do this. Do not talk to these people. If they say they represent something, just hang up the phone and check the next day with the Better Business Bureau. Take down as much information as you can. Find out who they are, what business they represent, etc. But do not, I emphasize, give them any information whatsoever. Some of these weirdos, and they are, one in particular called me about 2 weeks ago and said I owed this much money and I hadn't paid it, and I'd never done business with any kind of a business like this. And I just kind of let him talk and accuse me and all this kind of stuff, and he threatened me with arrest, and he threatened me with lawsuit and everything, and I says, finally, partner, hang on a second. He asked me for my credit card to take care of this, and so I thought I'd play with him a little bit. And I said, my credit cards are in my billfold in the other room. Can you hang on for a few minutes? Yes, I'll hang on. And I just put the phone down and continued watching TV. I guess the guy finally got sick and tired of waiting and hung up. So anyway, caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. It's Catherine with the Senior Junction.
You know, Catherine, how are you? I was going to call you to come on tomorrow because I'm at a lack of time today, but we can quickly cover. No, just a minute. We can cover some of this right now. There, I think, is some wrong information that's going around that the Meals on Wheels program has been cut by the Trump administration. And I've been telling people, well, first of all, the Trump administration does not fund the Meals on Wheels program, and I was going to have you come on the air and talk about it. But quickly, give me a kind of a synopsis of what I just said.
Well, I would be glad to come on tomorrow, but the budget cuts that Trump has proposed is strictly for block grants, which would provide for kitchen upgrades, building expansions, interior updates. It would have nothing to do with the actual funding of the meals going out to our seniors in our communities.
Okay.
So there is no cuts happening as of right now. I'm not saying that couldn't happen, but that is absolutely not happening. We are still providing those meals and those services.
Now, what I'm going to have you do is I want you to call me, not right after the program because I have to leave right after the program, but call me later in the day on my cell phone, 312-2976, and I will have you come on the program if possible. You call in tomorrow at 9:30, and we'll discuss this dilemma with the false information of people saying that Meals on Wheels is going to go bankrupt, there's no money, and the seniors are going to starve, because I want to put that rumor to rest. It is not true, and it is not connected with the Trump administration. Is that a good way to say it?
That is absolutely correct. Trump has nothing to do with the Meals on Wheels program, and we are not doing any budget cuts. There's nothing happening to the meals, and we want to curb that hysteria with our seniors.
You know, and it's a shame. Hysteria is a good way to put it, because I know yesterday I had about 3 or 4 phone calls on my cell phone about this, and they were condemning and, quite frankly, damning Donald Trump and his administration for cutting off the money to the MOW, the Meals on Wheels, to our seniors. And I said, wait a minute. You know, it's so easy today for people to jump on the bandwagon and start condemning a new president, especially Trump, and I don't like it because it's misinformation and it's false.
It is false information. It's a misdirection of people's time and attention to something that was blown out of proportion, and we certainly want to make sure that everyone is aware we are still providing those meals. Seniors are not going to go hungry, and we are still in good shape. So we want to make sure that people are aware of that, and I really appreciate you bringing some attention to this. And I also wanted to let your listeners know that we are having prime rib dinner on Thursday.
Ooh.
So come on out and support Meals on Wheels and get a delicious meal.
Absolutely. Now, here's what we'll do. Tomorrow you call in at 9:30, and I want to break this down a little bit. Even though it's erroneous that Trump administration is cutting Meals on Wheels, I do want to talk to you about funding. I do want to talk to you about how the money's still going to have to come, a lot of it or most of it, from private sources. So we'll talk about all this and more tomorrow on the program, okay?
Sounds great. I will call in at 9:30, and I'll call you a little later today. Have a great day.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Catherine. Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Let's also tell everybody about your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness sakes. Yes, sirree. They have got 7 locations serving you, and they've all got a great big spring tire sale going on. My goodness sakes, you better get over there and check it out. They've got tires for your car, your pickup, your SUV, horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever, and all the different tread designs for your type of driving. So I urge you to stop over and see them at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. And along with that, all your brake service, absolutely, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, man, they take care of you for safer driving from your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in there and see them today. Great big spring tire sale going on right now. That's going to wrap it up and put it back in the box for us today. And we certainly want to thank Wheels over at our main station for taking care of all the engineering and getting our calls on the air. And we're going to be back tomorrow. We've got Dave Beagle on the program. We've got attorneys with the Pacific Legal Foundation. We've got Catherine from the Senior Junction, and much, much more. So don't forget, tomorrow morning at 8:06, we'll saddle the horse and ride for 3 hours. Zeb at the Ranch. And our slogan, the way things were, are the way things ought to be. See you tomorrow morning.